Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to join me today. And today I'm joined by Dame Clarissa Burt to discuss the work that she's currently engaged in, primarily around self-esteem. In June 2022, Clarissa, as I've been given permission to call
Yes.
her, was knighted by the Royal Order of Constantine the Great and St. Helen, joining the ranks of 350 dames worldwide. I can't wait to ask you about that when we get to that spot.
All
And
right.
Clarissa is an internationally acclaimed award-winning media personality, producer, director, writer, author, public speaker, former supermodel, and winner of the Celebrity Survivor show. With hundreds of television and film credits to her name, Clarissa brings over 35 years of entertainment industry experience in both international and American markets. Clarissa is the founder and CEO of In the Limelight Media, a multimedia platform consisting of TV, video, a podcast, and a digital magazine. Her shows can be seen on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, etc. And her podcast is heard on 15 different distribution platforms. Her international award-winning best-selling book entitled The Self Esteem Regime was published in November 2021 and is available in written and audio formats. Clarissa is also a women's advocate and is passionate about the condition and position of women. What an incredible history and experience and track record. I'm so thankful that you joined us on the show today here, Clarissa. Thank you very much.
Gary, thank you so much for that. People say that, oh my God, you've done so. Oh, I've done so. I'm older than most people just because I'm old. It's not because I'm all that accomplished. I've just been around a lot longer than some people, but thank you for that. No, it's very kind.
I think you're being very modest there, on all accounts. But
Yeah.
being knighted by the Royal Order of Constantine the Great and St. Helen is a significant honor. Can you share what this experience meant to you and how it's influenced your
I'd
work?
love to. So 2 years ago, it was actually in June 2 years ago, probably in May 2 years ago, I got a phone call from a friend of mine said, I really would like to nominate you, for the Royal Order. And I said, well, fantastic. What does it mean and what do they do? And I really, found myself, quite in stride with what this operation does, what this organization does, and what this Royal Order does. And so they just do lovely things all over the world, especially for what I didn't know was that St. Helen is Constantine the Great's mother. And
Oh,
so there was that family tie in there, and they do a lot of things for children around the world. So it's the Sovereign Royal Order of Cappadocia, Constantine the Great, and St. Helen, Cappadocia being in Turkey. This is a royal order that it goes all the way back to the Byzantine era. There are Catholic ties, Vatican ties, and the like. It's a lovely, lovely recognition. I'm very thrilled to have been honored in this way. But it didn't really change me in any way, except I can use the title every once in a while when I see fit, I guess.
yeah. Oh, it's incredible. It's very unique as well. Just only 350 have
Yeah.
been bestowed with that honor across the world. So I'd like to concentrate our conversation today mostly on the theme of your book,
Mhm.
the self-esteem regime. And before we get to the actual book in and of itself, where did you come up with the idea? Why is self-esteem so important? And what do we do to get it?
Yeah, yeah, great questions. We'll be here all day on that one. What do you do to get it? Well, that's why I wrote the book, obviously. But self-esteem, it's everything we are, everything we think of ourselves, our perception of selves, the way that we relate not only to ourselves, but obviously to everyone else in the world. And so who are we? How do we present? What is that we're teaching others about how we will and will not be treated? And it's really the quality of our relationships. And so not only again to ourselves, but with others. So there are different things, especially in the book. So, self-esteem regime, here we go. And it is an international bestseller, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it was picked up by a New York City publisher. So I knew when there was interest in the publisher in New York City that we were really onto something, and that the idea that this is a book where you're going to do self-esteem. You're not going to just sit back and read about self-esteem. It's actually this actual, for me, the self-esteem regime being an organized way of doing things.
Yeah.
The self-esteem regime for me is a manual, a mission, and a movement. So I'll be happy when I see, oh, all people living as esteemed beings. Could you imagine if we woke up tomorrow, Gary, and everybody in the world had happy, healthy self-esteem? What kind of world we might be living in.
Yeah.
So that is, sort of the preface, if you will, to the book, what it's about. There are 12 different chapters. Each chapter begins with a reword, starting with release. So release is really what? It's letting go of everything you've been taught, everything you think you know, all the things you thought were etched in stone, all the things that, boom, were sort of foisted on your lap, whether it be through family, friends, faith, education, socialization, whatever that might be, or all of the above. When you try to get up with all of that on your lap, it's heavy. It's a lot of stuff to be carrying around all the time. And I offer that not all of it serves you. It's impossible that all of that can serve you.
Yeah.
So it's on you to say, this is what, I will have in my life. This is what I will not accept in my life. This is who I want to be. A lot of people, when I'm talking about self-esteem, I talk about reparenting ourselves. Mom and dad weren't perfect. They didn't come with an parenting doesn't come with an instruction manual. They did the best that they could. It could have been horrible, could have been great, but whatever it was, it's what they knew at the time.
Yeah.
And so isn't it time now for us to put on our big girl and big boy britches and say, okay, thank you very much. I know you did the best you can. All of the gaps now, it's up to me to fill in. So I'm going to reparent myself. I'm going to go out. I'm going to find the books, the tools, the resources, the meetup groups, the documentaries, the courses, the classes, whatever it is, and whatever that takes in order for me to be a better person tomorrow than I am today. So that's kind of, if you will, the overall arching idea of what the book is. And then I can tell you all kinds of other things if you ask me a question.
I would love to, even just taking a step back from there, what was the main inspiration? Why did self-esteem become your muse, if you like?
Funny you should ask, Gary. So obviously, most little girls, I am assuming little boys get picked from their dad, but little girls are looking up to mom. And I'm 2, I'm 3, I'm 4, I'm 5, and I think my mom is the most phenomenal woman on the face of the earth. And my mother, very funnily, who was a salutarian out of 800 girls in her Irish Catholic graduating class in Philadelphia, just never felt like she was enough, and that wasn't good enough, and that she was on the chubby side. And oh God, don't take a picture of me. I come out horrible in pictures. But here's a picture of my mother.
Oh, wow. Incredible. So for the listeners, people who are not watching on video, we have Clarissa has a photograph. Oh, is that you in the photograph as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So
But I
your
mean,
mum's
would you
gorgeous.
not say that mom was at least a pleasant looking woman, if not absolutely beautiful?
She's beautiful, absolutely.
Right. So this is what I was watching as I was, don't take it, oh, I come out horrible. Oh, I look awful. And everything, most of the things coming out of this extremely beautiful, extremely brilliant woman's mouth was not the same perception that I had of her.
Yeah.
Quite difference. Another picture just of mom when she graduated high school, again, to give you just a secondary, oops, sorry for the, but a lovely looking lady. I think you'll agree. So that was kind of one of the things that started me off on the path of, something, it was a head scratcher for me.
Yeah.
My grandmother, another beauty, you can imagine, my grandmother was a gorgeous woman. And one day, I don't know, she's in her 40s or late 40s, and she decides she just needs to lose weight. She needed to lose an ounce, but she did take 2 diet pills one day. She choked on them, perforated her esophagus, and spent 6 weeks in the hospital.
Oh my.
And I'm looking at my grandmother going, I think you are just the cat's meow. To me, you're everything. Why do I see beautiful, accomplished women? Now, remember, the times were quite different, but I'm looking at these women and trying to understand, why is it that they have such low esteem and perception of themselves? It's certainly not my perception of them. So that's kind of where it all started. Fast forward to my 20s. So 20 some years later, I'm modeling, and I'm modeling with the 1% of the most beautiful women in the world. And we are on magazine covers, and we're on beauty campaigns, and we're on all of the important runways all over the world. You name the runway, we were on them. And here again, now remember, I put myself in the mix in it with self-esteem, lack of self-esteem because of my childhood. I'm dealing now with women that are absolutely the 1%ers of the world, Gary, and they are in toxic relationships. Potentially, some of them are doing drugs or have drinking problems or are anorexic or bulimic. And so again, not all of them, But there were instances where I'm looking at these girls and going, oh my God, you are so gorgeous. And you have the world at your feet. You're really a 1%er. What could be your. And it was the same question that was asked of me when I went back to Italy, where I lived for 30 years and worked in television and the like. And when I dropped my book a year and a half ago, they, oh, Clarissa Burt, why would you be writing a book about self-esteem and what? And isn't it funny that the perception, that self-esteem is that, it discriminates. Well, it doesn't. Self-esteem doesn't discriminate. It's not age. It's not credo. It's not religion. It's not race. It's none of that. It's all of us. I am going to say, I guarantee you, no one gets out of this life unscathed from at least one incidence of lack of self-esteem. So in answer to the question, I realized that, what was the correlation between my mother and grandmother in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and these girls, that were the 1% models. And therein lay the answer, and that was lack of happy, healthy self-esteem.
Yeah, and what sort of effect did that have on you? Because I can tell just through your energy, through your words, through your passion, that you genuinely revered these strong, beautiful, accomplished females in your life, and you're doing your thing, and you're maybe possibly seeing a pattern. I don't want to put words in your
Yeah.
mouth. I know you didn't say that, but what sort of impact did that have on Clarissa as
Yeah.
she's navigating?
And it's a great question because, my grandmother, again, we're talking about the very different times now,
Yeah.
right? So my grandmother was very submissive to her husband, as women were back in the day, So I think if you remember the show All in the Family with Archie Bunker and Edith, that would have been the perfect depiction,
Yeah.
pretty much, you get the gist, of who my grandparents were. My mother was an abused and battered woman. So now you add that layer on. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. And I say, Mom, you're so smart. Oh, believe me, I'm not smart. Again, she's a salutarian out of 800 girls at West Catholic High in Philadelphia. And she's telling me, she was on the dean's list all 4 years. She's not smart. I'm going, the hell is the problem? Like, what is, and then abusive relationship. Okay. So, so again, it was there were layers upon layers upon layers. And I think that really is what, of course, it was forming me also along the way. And as I went, I knew for a fact that I wasn't, and it's funny because my mother didn't ever want to be seen in a picture, and I became a model, right? So it was like, wow, okay. My father, back in the day, and as one did back in the 40s and 50s, there were always racial slurs or epithets that were being thrown out. The Irish were the mix, and the Polish were the, I forget, with the mix and the kicks and whatever the hell all that was.
Yeah.
And then the Italians were the wops and the dagos. I don't know if you remember that. And I know it's not probably correct to say, but for this context, I think that it will pass. And that is, it's so funny that I went then to live 30 years in Italy, right? So I went to Italy, and then I became a model. And so, and it was like, wow, I didn't even realize that until years later. I went, God, I did the exact opposite of what Mom and Dad were saying all those years. But I think that, the idea was that the formation was there. And so therefore, no man was ever going to touch me. And no man ever did. It was such a strong intention in my life as a young girl that there would never be a man. That might have been, emotionally abused or something, but there was never going to be a man that was ever going to lay a hand on me. And God, to this day, no one ever has. So I think that there and the idea that of the fear. When you're living in fear and you come out of a home like that with PTSD, and you have very little in the way of social skills, and now all of a sudden you're out the front door and it's, whoa, life. You learn quickly. I thought that when I left, my parents' home, that yelling and screaming was life.
Yeah.
And so when I got out into the world, Gary, I quickly learned that shit don't fly. I mean, excuse my friend, it's not going to happen in their world when you're yelling and screaming. So I quickly had to learn what I call, my reparenting skills.
Yeah.
So put on your big boy britches. First of all, you have to understand there's a problem. You don't get that for a couple of years yet.
Yeah.
Then you go, well, there's a problem because now I'm 25 years old and I'm in a deep depression.
Mm-hmm.
Deep depression. Took me about 2 years to get out of. And I thought, well, now that's interesting. What the hell's this going on now? learned my way through that. And when I came out on the other side, not only was I different, because depression will do that. I was different, but it was also a time when I went, okay, putting on my big girl britches, going to reparent myself. I'm going to get everything. So I started to live in the bookstores. Way in the back, there was a little section called the self-help section. And on those shelves, Gary, there couldn't have been any more than 40 or 50 books, honestly. It just wasn't a big thing back then. Remember, this is pre-computer, pre-internet, pre-cell phone, all of that.
Yeah.
And it was the only place that a girl could go to get support, assistance, solace, guidance, help, understanding in any way.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, always kind of intrinsic in the makeup of things that I was going to write a book about self-esteem. And the crowning cherry on the top of all of that is that my book today is in the Barnes and Noble stores, where I used to go and hang out to find out more about self-esteem. And it's been there for 2.5 years, right next to Deepak Chopra, right next to Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I'm quite proud of that.
That's incredible. It must be such a unique feeling to go and be able to see that.
Yeah.
We were talking about very close to Brene Brown
Yeah,
and
Brene Brown,
Harvard
you
as
remember
well.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm right between Brene Brown, who's an Oprah insider. So
Yeah.
it's Brene Brown, Clarissa Burt, Deepak Chopra, and Dr. Joe Dispenza. So I mean, it doesn't get anybody better for that, than that for a first-time author and a girl that just absolutely adores all three of them.
Yeah, fantastic. When talking about the inspiration from your parents and the lifestyle you had, and then which you took to the outside, I like to think of that as kind of unintentional, influence or unintentional, modeling of behavior or influence from the parents. I had that myself with my dad, and I use this story in comedy quite a lot, just when I'm telling a funny story, that my dad was deeply inspirational to me as a man, as a person, because he was the laziest guy I have literally ever met in my entire life. So anytime I ever got a dose of the laziness, that would last maybe for more than half a day, maybe 2 days, something like that, I would say, "Whoa, nope, no, 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 you're not doing that. That's what your dad does. That's
Up
what
we
he
go,
does."
up we go.
You just, yeah,
Up you get.
I need to go do something else. And I recall the first time that I remember saying it in his company about this unintentional influence that he had on me. And he's getting so proud at the beginning of the story that I'm
Oh
telling him
yeah.
he was such a great influence on
Wow.
me. And it wasn't for something genuinely inspirational.
Wow. You actually said that?
Yeah,
Wow.
we
Okay.
were
All
best of
right.
friends. We were best of friends up
Cool.
until the end of his life. But it was one of these, it sounds like you were absorbing, you were learning, you were
Yeah.
growing from
Yeah.
everything that you went through, and
Yeah.
embraced the journey that you went on,
Yeah.
took lessons from wherever they were, whether they were negative or
Absolutely.
positive, and then
Then when you realize that, that stuff's just not working, you realize at a certain point in life, again, a major depression like that doesn't come out of nowhere. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't explain it to this day. It just was. And I knew that at that point I had to take responsibility for my emotional pain, and that I could either conform or I could transform, one of the two.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Incredible. And taking those experiences and then transforming them into something that can help
Yeah.
someone else is the ultimate.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
interested back to the way that you structured the book. And as you mentioned earlier, that it is a regime. It's something that
Yeah.
you don't get to sit and passively consume. You have to do the work. You're going to get the best bang for your buck, if I could say that, in terms
Yep.
of actually following the process. Why that? Because I don't see that very often. There's the odd exercise or self-tip or notes page or something on
Because
books.
as they say, the self-esteem regime is a manual, a mission, and a movement. It's not a book where you're going to sit down, read all about self-esteem and what it is and what. No, not going to do that. You're going to put, as they say, get the big boy britches on, big girl britches on again, and you're going to do self-esteem. You are going to be doing it. You're in the thick of it now. And that starts with chapter 1, which is release. And those things that you thought were etched in stone because they told you it was so, they told you it was true. It could have been mom or dad, it could have been the church, whatever it was. that you're just going, you know what? I don't know if that really serves my best purpose. Not because you, again, by the way, all this, you want to be a better person tomorrow than you are today, right? So you're not trying, no way do we ever blame, we don't get shame, blame, or guilt anyone. Right? It's not what this is about. This is about, again, the reparenting part, and the piece where you go, I'm taking responsibility. It's my life, and I'm going to do what I need to do. So, release is that first part, all that generational stuff and all the things. You release a lot of stuff, and it can be painful, and you need a lot of courage. You're probably going to need a tissue at times, and that's great, because that means you're starting to do the work and hang in there, because it all gets better. The second one is rebuild. So now you're on ground zero. You're going to rebuild. I want to build the life now that I want. Not the one I was told I needed to have, not the one that society wants me to have. Look, I'm 65 years old. I've never been married. I've never had children. And some people, Gary, if you talk to some people, they go, what the hell? Well, you must be like the biggest walking red flag. All right. And then other people say to me, damn, Clarissa, did you get it right? Whew.
Yeah.
You're the smartest woman I know. And isn't it funny, the perception and how, people will. And look, I certainly have had lovely relationships in my life. It's not like I'm a loveless woman. It's just that I never got married. I was asked and it wasn't right, or whatever was going on at the time. It just wasn't for me at the time. Yeah. And so I now, at my age, I've never been better. I've never been happier. Things are great. I smile all day long, and I'm thrilled with, who I am and who I've become. And a lot of that work obviously is because, of the book and shows like this. Number 3 is responsibility. I could be here all day on the book, but the third chapter is responsible. Where are we taking responsibility, and where are we shirking responsibility? We are a work in progress, and that is something that we must give ourselves grace for, and permission to get it wrong. You're not always going to get it right. Give yourself the permission, give yourself the grace, forgive yourself. And that's where the mirror therapy comes in so handy. Yeah. And I said, as I may have told you before, I first learned of mirror therapy with Louise Hayes's works. Then Jack Canfield, the other half of Chicken Soup for the Soul author with Mark Victor Hansen, had it also in his works. And I went, well, it's good enough for them. It's good enough for me. And that is where you approach a mirror. There are 2 ways to approach the mirror. You can either look in the mirror, you can look at the mirror or into the mirror. So looking at the mirror is when we're preening. It's brushing our hair, and doing our makeup and all this stuff, right? Or you can come over and do the screening, which is where you're actually sitting down and looking into the mirror, which means you're looking into your own eyes, and that therefore into your own soul, quite frankly. And you become your own rah-rah session. And you start to say things to yourself that, maybe you're waiting a lifetime for other people to say. And certainly you're not waiting for other people, because this is called self-esteem. It's not called what everybody else thinks about me esteem. Yeah. Right. And so what everybody else thinks about you is none of your business. Bring it back home and then worry about yourself. Yeah. And so when you're in the mirror and you're talking to yourself, by the way, it's going to look weird. It's going to feel weird. It's going to sound weird. It is weird. Whatever it is, do it, because it's the most impactful exercise in the book. Shut the door, bathroom door, do it whenever nobody's home. I don't care what you got to do, but do it in the car. I don't care. But do this exercise, and then let me know in 21 days how life has changed. Because if you can walk into a mirror and go, hey, Gary, how you doing today? Looking pretty good, I gotta say it. Oh, by the way, just want to let you know, really like you. What? Let me go one step further. I really love you, Gary. I think you're quite a guy. You're a really good guy. You're a good man, and you're a good dad, a good husband, whatever you get on the list. Good son, yada yada. And then, Gary, I want to let you know, that presentation you gave the other day, damn if you didn't nail that. And the interview you did with Clarissa, top job, top job. And Gary, I just also want to let you know that I also forgive you. I forgive you for that time, or I forgive you for last week, or forgive you for that relationship I got you into that broke your heart, that was so toxic. You shouldn't have gotten into it. We know that, but you did. And I forgive you. So let's move on. Whatever it is, right, Gary, whatever it is, but you talk to yourself like, and you become your best rah-rah set, because nobody else is going to say this stuff to you. No one. And what it does is it reinforces the relationship to self, and it's your rah-rah session. Yeah. And then you go, hey, again, looking pretty good. See you later. See you next time. And off you go about your day. And I'm telling you, you try it and see what happens, see how your life changes. if you'll give me a moment, there's one other thing I'd really like to do, and it's just a part of the forward of the book, and that is, oh, I've changed. I'm sorry. I got the wrong. It's the acknowledgments in the book.
Yeah.
I'd like to acknowledge the millions of people all over the world who have been abandoned, abused, beaten, hit, struck, oppressed, depressed, distressed, held back, lied to, cheated on, who have been lost, betrayed, deceived, misled, double-crossed, walked out on, stabbed in the back, sold down the river, stolen from, deserted, discarded, shunned, cast out, dropped, dumped, forgotten, neglected, rejected, and/or dejected. You are the sole reason I have written this book. Now, if you weren't in there somewhere, this is why I say, self-esteem doesn't discriminate. It hits us all. People say, do you ever get 100 on, you ever get self-esteem and you're good to go? No, nope, you don't. You never get 100 on a self-esteem test, and it stays that way for life, because life is life. It ebbs and flows. It comes and goes, and we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And all of us have had that tomorrow that shows up where there's a death, where there's a divorce, where there's a separation, where there's rejection, where there's trauma, where a betrayal. It comes out of nowhere, and boom, there you are. So what do you do? What do you do in those cases? And what I say is, and I continue to invite and offer people to do, is to get the tools in the shed that you need for the rainy day.
Yeah.
And when the storm comes through, here comes that hurricane, here comes life, ebb and flow, boom, hit you upside the face, just like a well-rooted tree, because of those tools we have in the shed. Maybe we'll lose a branch, a leaf, and we could lose a branch, or, even. But we're not going to be uprooted with the storm and transported away.
Yeah.
Because we had the tools in the shed that we needed for that rainy day.
Yeah. Fabulous. And the mirroring exercise that you mentioned earlier is so counter to what a lot of people do, which would be, one, not look in the mirror, and two, engage in negative self-talk all the time, focus on the negative, and say things to themselves that they wouldn't dare say to another human being, but for some reason it's okay to say to themselves. So to get into that practice of literally physically saying it to yourself, I have never done that before. I think it's
Gary,
something
I gave this as an exercise to an intern that is a young girl, Chinese girl that I was working with. She was an intern, and I gave her the exercise to do and to record herself doing it. In other words, that we would have that potentially as like B-roll or something.
Yeah.
She couldn't do it. She could get to the mirror, and she could look in the mirror, but she couldn't get the words out. So she edited in a voiceover of her while she was looking in the mirror. But she said, Clarissa, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And I said, honey, that's okay. One step at a time. There's no judgment here, and it's all good.
Yeah.
But work on that. Continue to be there for yourself. Be your best advocate. Love yourself. And when you say to somebody, love yourself, some people don't know where the hell to start. They don't know what you mean. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So good on the people that are putting in the work, that they understand it's their sacred duty to do the work and to want to be a better person tomorrow than they are today, and that they're ready to do whatever it takes to be that person.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned release, rebuild, responsibility. What else can we expect?
Oh, okay. I gotta bring out the book, because I don't have this all memorized. So after that, we have replace.
Yeah.
Right. So, be careful when you start the journey, because you must know that, I frequently say the toxic stops here. All of the stuff that came forward, and I told you about that really heavy lap and all the stuff that we had foisted onto us. It can be daunting and a little heavy. And so we might have to replace people in our lives. And when we start to let go of some of the relationships, doesn't mean you don't see them ever again. And it doesn't mean, but you cannot continue to be in toxic relationships. You cannot continue to be in non-supportive relationships. This is a no-no. And this is like self-esteem 101. No, don't compare yourself to anybody else, and do not be in toxic relationships, or toxic anything, quite frankly. I get down to food, obviously, drugs and alcohol abuse, all the things. But as we're talking about self-esteem as it pertains to relationships, first, obviously, relationship to self, right? And then replace those things in your life and or those people in your life with healthier choices.
Yeah.
Healthier choices. Some of the hardest work you'll ever have to do is to start distancing the toxicity. It will be not some of the easiest things you will ever do. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Reaffirm. So let's go back. Let's go back to where we were. We're reaffirming. Here we go. That's kind of like, that's where I believe that the mirror work is. The reaffirming with ourselves almost every day. If it can only be a minute, I don't care, a minute a day in the mirror. That's all you need. And if you can do that every day and just continue to reaffirm all the good things the changes that you're making in your life, well, hell yeah, that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Just a great place to be. We then go into reinvent, which I have had to do many times in my life. And I will tell you that as I was coming out of modeling, I kind of was aging out, and I was getting older, and I was it wasn't as fun anymore. And then I was like, now what? Okay, I'll act. And so I did that. And I went, this isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. And then it was TV. Okay, we'll do that. And then it was, what did I do after TV? And then I was on camera talent, and then I was producing. And so I kept upping my game as I was reinventing myself, because when you become stagnant with any one thing that you do, it can lead to complacency, which then leads to being lazy, which then leads to being unhappy and you can spiral back down into either sadness or depression or anxiety. And that's not where we want. It's just not healthy stuff. So we don't want to go there either. So, I could do the whole book, but I think you get the idea. The next one is reinforce. So we're constantly reinforcing, repeat, rebound, redirect, because there are definitely energies and different things that we will have to redirect as we go. Respect, big one. Respect is a big one. And so the same respect that you want, the golden rule, treat others as you'll have them treat you. And this is where we set our boundaries. And so boundaries, again, where we teach people how we will and will not be treated. It doesn't have to be yelling and screaming to tell people how you want to be. It can be done with ease, grace, and glory, and joy. When you say to somebody, hey, listen, what you just said kind of pissed me off. And I just want to no, you don't say it that way, but you do say, could we talk about that a second? Because it didn't land right with me, or it made me feel. I'm not saying we're going into the whole triggering thing. I'm just saying there are things that can be said or can be done, that you kind of go, sorry, can we have a conversation in a minute about that? And most people go, gosh, I'm so sorry. I was teasing, didn't mean it that way. And certainly if it has that effect, I won't do it again. That's when you're in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
When someone says, get the hell over yourself. What's your problem? What's the matter? You're not in a good relationship right there.
Yeah.
You're not in a good relationship, most likely. And then the last chapter, Gary, is reciprocal, which was the hardest one for me, I think, to understand that, I know that I'm definitely type A. I run. I go. I do. I'm on top of everything, control and everything in its proper place. And I'm always on time, and I'm where I'm supposed to be, all that, right? And one day, I forget, I was years ago, I was in a meeting, with my secretary or a couple of people. And I said, oh my God, I said something along the lines of, Dad, it just feels, I don't know, I'm just exhausted. I feel like I have to do so much. And somebody said to me, Clarissa, it's really hard to do anything for you because you do it all.
Yeah.
And it was like, ding, 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 ding. That's a law of the universe, reciprocity.
Yeah.
And so when you're not allowing others to do for you and giving them the space to thrive, when somebody's doing something, it makes them feel good too.
Yeah.
Because you're robbing them of the possibility of saying, hey, great job, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you just want to be really careful about that reciprocity thing. It really, I just really went, oh, okay. Okay, you want to do for me? Okay, great. It was never done the way I wanted it to be done, but I overlooked it. I'm being a jerk. I know I'm being a jerk right now, but as I jested, as I kid, not so much. Everyone, yes, I learned a lot from, it's really hard to do anything for you, Clarissa, because you do everything and you do it all. Yeah. So yeah, I backed off and softened on that for sure.
It takes some time to adjust, I'm sure. Yeah. So
Yeah.
in terms of the book, I know that you've said that self-esteem is not discriminatory in any way. When you started the journey of writing the book, did you have a more female angle, male, both, anyone, everyone?
Yes. Yes. It really was more female. And it was kind of, I think we were looking more, I mean, a teenager could definitely read it. It's an easy, it's not, it's an easy read. It's not quite an easy do if you do all the work in there and the practices. There are exercises, there's Clarissa's Corner, there are affirmations, there are case studies, there's homework. I mean, there's each chapter, it lives as a microcosm, and it's really each one of them is quite a bit to chew. It's quite a bit to chew, but if you do the work, it's pretty darn exciting. You'll see the changes in your life. But yeah, I mean, I hope that did I answer the question, or
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was more the angle, the initial angle of
yeah, it was definitely women. It was definitely women. And when I first got back, I think I had shown you this already, but let me see if there are 3 triangles here, and reminding you that this is my working copy. But the 3 triangles were pink, orange, and yellow. And so when it first came back from the publisher, and you're not allowed to change anything when the publisher said, it's written in stone when the publisher says it.
yeah.
So I got with my literary agent. I said, can we ask just one thing? Can you please just ask him to make that 3 colors of blue so that men will pick it up off the shelves? And they did, and it worked. And yes, it's mostly, the case studies are all women, but it's a plug and play. You can definitely go, wow, maybe his name wasn't Johanna, but it was John, or whatever. And when I would drop the book in Italy a year and a half ago, and I was going around the country, and they had set up events for me to go to, half of the room were men. Gary, it was the craziest damn thing. Half of the room were men. And I went, I'm onto something. And to that end, and I think I might have mentioned this to you in pre-show, that is, there are different groups that, we do have a youth mental health crisis in the United States, which is 50% of our youth are either anxious, depressed, thinking of committing suicide, or have committed suicide. And that's an alarming number. We hear often about the 22 veterans a day because of PTSD that just couldn't take one more step. And then we have the new group that has come on as of late are men. And that really, really, that shocked me the most, I think. That men need to be heard, they need to be seen, they need to be loved, they need the attention, they need the affection, they need the reassurance, they need the compliments, they need as much as anybody else on the planet needs. And I know that there are some really great men coaches out there that are advocating for men and men's self-esteem. Guys are always taught, and this guy's book is Big Boys Do Cry.
Right.
And I loved it. And it's not about being soft or going soft. It's about, when you, they call these soft skills, Gary.
Yeah.
In the corporate genre, corporate speak, these are soft skills. And I offer that the soft skills are some of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. It's some of the hardest work you'll ever have to do. So that, the soft and the hard part of it all is, soft skills, but it's kind of some, it's easier to go to 4 years of college, crack the books, learn what you got to do, and then go into corporate, 8 years, whatever it may be. But the harder things are really to learn what these soft skills are, to learn personal development, self-esteem, self-improvement, self-awareness, self-confidence. I don't know if I mentioned to you that confidence, confidere, Latin, confidere, means with trust. So self with trust, which means trust in self, that's what self-confidence is. And so, yeah, I offer it up again. It's everybody's sacred duty to be, just pulling out these books, courses, classes, meetup groups, whatever it takes, to be out of pain, get out of pain, stay out of pain, talk about the pain, bring up the pain. Don't be afraid of the pain. You're not the only one. You're not alone. We're all in some degree of pain on a daily basis, some more, some less. But I don't even tell you where I was 2.5 years ago. I won't even go there. And it was wild because my own book, notwithstanding what I was going through at the time, which was the death of a brother. I lost my sister at my brother's funeral. I broke off a relationship. I lost my entire Google Drive. My mother was in a catastrophic car accident, all within like 11 months. And it was a long story, but I just really went, I'm one of the strongest people I know. And I just was so destabilized. I was in so much pain. And ironically, it was the idea that I was having to get up, do my makeup, do my hair, take a shower, get dressed, come in front of a podcast and talk about how I could help you with happy, healthy self-esteem and stay out of anxiety, depression, and live a greater life. I don't even know how I got through it. I was so devastated in that period in time. But it was my own book that was getting me through this really cathartic process. So yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things you go, look, if I could do it when I was going through all of that, you could do it too, you know? And not only, but I had to put on a smile every day. So look, I'm not laughing at anyone's difficulty or anybody's pain. I'm here to tell you it will get better. It can get better. It does get better. And, you know, we're all here. There's a whole personal development section for you waiting at Barnes and Noble. There are people out here waiting, you know, if you need the help, it's out here.
Incredible. Incredible. So powerful. How can the listeners find out a little bit more about your work, Clarissa?
About my book?
About your work in general, your
my
book.
work. Oh, you mean where can they find me?
Yeah.
Oh, you can find me on at clarissaburt.com, on all social. It's Clarissa Burt. I'm not on Snapchat, but all the other ones. And yeah, I mean, it's great stuff. I love this. I love what I do. I get really passionate about, you know, I just can't stand to see people in pain.
Yeah.
It bothers me to why do you do this, Clarissa? Because I just don't want anybody in pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Inspirational. Clarissa, thank you very, very much for the conversation today. I learned a lot, was inspired. We went on a bit of an emotional journey. There was quite a lot to
We
unpack
absolutely
there.
did. And we made it out alive.
We did indeed. And look, we're still smiling.
That's what I say when it is emotional and things will be emotional, but when you start the work and you do the work and that little light at the end of that tunnel, every step you make, it gets bigger, bolder, brighter, and more beautiful. So do the work, get through the tunnel, and on the other side, it's astonishing what will happen to you in your life.
Incredible. Thanks again.
Thanks, Gary.